I'm like, no. You go by
It was like a whole new thing, you know?
I grew up as Jim. I became Jim when you have to be freshman in Jim. As I get more comfortable with whoever I am.
Okay, so here's so my grandfather was Timmy. Everybody knew him as Timmy his entire life. He died like that before. And when it was announced at school,
what?
Keep the battery just in case, or just leave it up there?
What? The spare for that one, you're saying?
Spare bat, or you want to get that nice period?
We'll take a look where it's at and assess. Should we swap or should we swap?
So it should be fine now.
Well, it's full, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we should be fine.
I got you. All right, everybody. We are going to get started. And I want to say thank you guys, for being here, and for we are lucky today to have one of the CreatiVets here. CreatiVets is a Chicago, Nashville-based organization dedicated to providing combat veterans struggling with post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury opportunities to use art, music, and creative writing to heal the unseen wounds of war. Here to represent CreatiVets today, we have Zachary Burgard, who served in the Marine Corps for nearly 15 years before being medically retired from multiple traumatic brain injuries. Zachary is a graduate of the CreatiVets Art and Music program. He currently attends the School of Art Institute in Chicago and uses his artistic skills to help heal veteran minds. That said, I welcome Mr. Burgard.
all right. First and foremost, happy Friday. It's almost the weekend. So I'm Zach Burgard. I was in the Marine Corps for 14 years. I joined right out of high school. I had the opportunity to become a reconnaissance Marine. I got an opportunity to get in the water and screen. I was a forced reconnaissance Marine, which means we did the parachuting and the diving and scout sniper stuff and kicking doors down stuff for a long time. And then I had a really successful career in the Marine Corps, but I got hurt many times, but I didn't ever take the time to deal with it because I wanted to keep deploying and keep doing the job of being a Marine and having fun. So when it got to a point where I couldn't do much anymore because of my injuries, I found art, and then I found art through CreatiVets. And so we're going to watch a quick video, just a segment of it, to give a little broad brush of the co-founder, Richard Casper, who is also in the Marine Corps. He founded CreatiVets and helps veterans find their way through art and music, and this is his story. It was told by a Time documentary with George Bush as well. So I'll kick that on.
We were all in school thinking that a bully is your biggest fear, and then all of a sudden we're watching these towers fall, all these people died. I think we all grew up faster than most people. I was just like, I want to be the first person overseas fighting in this war, and I figured if I joined the Marine Corps infantry, I'd be the first one going over.
He came home and he goes, I'm going to join the Marines. And I'm like, you're 15. He goes, I know, but he goes, you're lucky I'm not 18 because I'd go today.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
So I signed up for the Marine Corps in 2003. I got selected as a special tester, and a lot of this was like psychological tests, all these different things, and every time we went back to one of these, there's fewer and fewer people. We finished with about 20 people, and that's actually when they told us, you're going to go to Camp David and guard the President of the United States. just the thought of me being in charge of the life of the President of the United States, coming from a town of 1,100 people, to me that was a crazy idea that this would even happen. But my heart was telling me to go to war. So I told them that I would love to go to the first unit deploying overseas.
Oh, there's me. Oh, I'm right next to Maeve. Hey, see our reflection. Oh yeah, there's Yepson and all his big guns. It is cool.
Luke Yepson was my gunner while I was in Iraq. And we kind of had this big brother, little brother thing going because I was in charge of him, but he was older than all the other guys.
This is Iraq. I hate it. And I'm going to be coming back. Corporal Casper is inside searching the house. You can see his head. Right there, he's the one that's way taller than everybody else within 30 miles. Looks like he wants me to turn it off, but I think he just doesn't want to show off his big muscles or his pretty face. So we're gonna keep filming it.
You cut it. Cut it. You have to.
There he is.
We came up on this bomb right in the middle of the road, so ultimately we knew it was fake. What I didn't know was we were at the ambush stages.
Yeah, that's 90. Oh, I'm really bad at sniper, so I'm gonna get back in. Here's me getting it.
His feet are right next to me in the truck because he's sticking out of the gun. I made him get in the truck. All of a sudden, his feet scoot back up. And then I noticed there's cars coming, and he starts waving again. And I said, Gibson, you want to end up on my arm, don't you? And he's like, it'd be an honor to be on your arm, Corporal Casper. Not even 10 or 15 minutes after that, he was shot and killed. So needless to say, I ended up putting him on my arm, but we didn't know where the shot came from, so we never actually got the sniper. I never really saw the enemy out there, and I was just getting hit left and right.
So that's what I want to leave you with from that. And I understand that I didn't get into art and process, but I wanted to show like the kind of things that you deal with in combat, and it may not be, getting shot yourself, it may not be getting hurt yourself, but it's, Richard, who was our co-founder, the tall guy, his best friend getting shot, right next to him. And then as you saw when they're on that plane, that's the ride home, and you're excited, and you're happy, and you're feeling great, right? But you may be losing some people who aren't there anymore, or people who got injured and went back to the States early, and you might still be thinking about them. So those are the kind of individual small wounds of war that are unseen, and that aren't really easily to diagnose, it's not easy to go to somebody and say, hey, I'm dealing with this, because you may not know it. You may not know it for a long time. And it's no different than a lot of things that kids deal with nowadays. You don't have to be in combat to experience invisible wounds, right? Like, I didn't have a great childhood growing up, never met my father, was in a not great house, in a not great neighborhood. I got kicked out of my first high school, and I graduated my other high school with a 1.2 GPA, which is all good because I was joining the Marine Corps, and I didn't care about it. But, it's not particular to the military for all of these wounds, but you guys are doing these brick things, right? It's courage to heal, courage to help, right? So for me, in my courage to heal, so I was in the Marine Corps for 14 years. I deployed 7 times. I was in Fallujah actually at the same time as Richard. And when we lost 2 of our combat engineers 6 minutes into a mission, so we left the gate, everybody's up on gear, we're good, let's go out for 3 or 4 days in Fallujah. Less than 6 minutes from leaving the gate, we had 2 guys dead and we had to go back already. Like his mission's over. Richard was actually on that road providing security for us out far distance. So it's such a small world and everything you do and everything you encounter. But that was a tough time for me and the people I was with. But after that, I thought I was fine. I didn't get hurt. I didn't have any wounds. I didn't bleed. But years after that, and many more deployments, and many more schools. I was a Marine Corps Scout Sniper. I was a JTAC, so I called bombs in off of aircraft. I was a dive supervisor for closed circuit diving, a free fall jump master. I had all the schools a little boy could want for. It was it. It was a dream job. And I was also selected to from the Force Reconnaissance community to go down to Chile and work with the Chilean Navy SEALs for 3 years. So not only was I doing my dream job, but they're going to teach me Spanish in DC, and then I was going to go live in Chile on the beach for 3 years. Like, what better life could I ask for, But then things started to surface, and my concussion started to take over my life, essentially, at which point I had to get help, which was the hardest thing I've ever done. And, like I said, I was a scout sniper. I fell out of a helicopter one time. I got struck by lightning. I had just a bunch of things happen to me, but the hardest thing that I ever did was commit to getting better, which took 1.5 years in a brain injury clinic to make my brain work again, because my migraines were so bad I couldn't function. I was missing full conversations with people. Like, I couldn't remember my kids' names, birthdays, conversations with just so many things. And then once I got into art through the brain injury clinic, things started to work again. And I was able to talk about the 16 guys that I'd lost in combat or from suicide after combat, and it started to help, And so that's when I got paired up with CreatiVets, and I came to Chicago with them, and we did. I did this piece. This was my piece that I did at CreatiVets. So this is it's like a 4 foot wide, 2.5 feet tall flag out of ceramics, but there's puzzle pieces missing, and those puzzle pieces are signifying the 6 guys that we didn't come home with out of our small 24-man platoon. And so this piece helped me, exactly what Richard was saying, express myself to others without actually telling them any stories. Like, I can show this and people see that, okay, there's a flag and it's falling apart. Something's missing from this. It's falling, it's not complete, And so after CreatiVets, when I was in Chicago, the School of the Arts Institute of Chicago with CreatiVets, I decided to go and see how far away I was from being accepted into this school. And the School of the Arts Institute of Chicago is a very prestigious art school. It's like top notch. And so I didn't think I was anywhere near it, but I just wanted to see what it was, because I had never done art. I was in the Marine Corps 15 years. When I was doing art in the Marine Corps, it was drawing a fire range sketch where I was drawing where enemy locations could be, and drawing the distances to them in case they need to call an aircraft, put sniper fire, or send teams on it. That was my art. And now I'm doing, like art. And this is one of my pieces, 6 feet tall and 4.5 feet wide. And it's just like explaining to myself, like, it's time to move on. I had this like really, really heavy loss of the Marine Corps. I had planned to do it for 20 plus, and with my career path, it was going to be no problem doing that and doing everything I had envisioned, and keep deploying and keep deploying and keep deploying. But transitioning to art is allowing myself to heal internally, physically, and mentally, and then it's also really helping me out to help others heal. And now I work with CreatiVets, and we just got a location out in Bridgeport in the city, which is phenomenal, fantastic. Please come out to visit us on third Fridays and other times. There's a follow thing on here where you guys can connect with us on Instagram and come out and see the kind of work that the veterans are doing. And we have like 3 to 4 shows a year in the area and also all over the United States. So it helped me heal a buddy of mine who was going through some stuff. And I said, why don't you send me your uniforms? Because he was transitioning out of the Air Force. He was with me on my deployment to Fallujah, and he was getting out of the Air Force. He was having a lot of big issues in his life. And so I wanted to try to help him in the same way that I felt art has helped me. And so I asked him to send me his uniforms, and I was going to cut them up and make paper out of them so he could do some art on them. But then I found out his uniforms were too high poly counts, and so they weren't cotton enough to make into paper, and they were already in strips. And so it just kind of like made sense to me, why don't I make a flag out of this? And so I made a 3-foot by 5-foot flag out of his uniforms and sent it back to him, and to see the response that it was in his family, his kids, to see like, you know, what he fought in, you know, wearing that uniform. And he went to Afghanistan and Iraq and did some floats around the world with the Navy to put it into what we fought for. Was a really big, it was a pretty big, powerful thing for him. And so I started to do it for other veterans, and this is what I have started to do, is just make these combat flags out of the veterans' combat uniforms. And it's a really interesting way to show how there are people behind these, you know, conflicts, wars, things, you know, these struggles. And what CreatiVets has allowed me to do is to really help out these veterans and other people who've going through, you know, these struggles that I've gone through, and it's also allowed me to try to tackle some things that I had before the Marine Corps, you know, that everyday people deal with and things. So the CreatiVets program, we have two. One is an art program, and it is here in Chicago. It's 3 weeks. The veterans come in from all over America. Everything's paid for by us. They stay in the dorms. They use everything they can in the school. So we have people do metal work. We have people do woodwork, screen printing, fabric making, mostly ceramics. And they get the opportunity to exhibit their work at the School of the Art Institute, at the National Veterans Art Museum, and these other places to show, to try to bring the public's eye into unseen wounds of war or visible wounds of war. And it's really powerful. And our songwriting program, we bring a veteran in, and Richard is usually the person for it, and it's a one-on-one thing where we bring a veteran and Richard, and they work for like 2 or 3 days together in Nashville with a singer-songwriter, and they create a song out of their experiences. And then at the end of that 3 days, that singer-songwriter plays that song at a venue in front of people. You know, that veteran, again, doesn't have to say much of anything and nothing he doesn't want to anyone he doesn't want to, but is still able to get his message and his struggles and his feelings out there. And it's just a really powerful thing. And so that when I finally conquered my courage to heal, I'm now still switching into this courage to help. And it's just such a phenomenal thing. And it's great that you guys are doing it. And it's a really great thing. But, you know, it's not just military courage, you know. I saw the bricks out there, and there was, you know, my dad is courageous. You know, it's courageous to say the right thing when someone's saying the wrong thing. It's courageous to do the right thing when no one's listening. And, you know, it's all the same, you know. I just have maybe a bigger, you know, more emotionally driven past from that. But it's really fantastic what you guys are doing here at the school. These last few minutes, does anyone have any questions about art, college, going to art school, military, anything? Yeah.
So when was it that you realized that you were interested in art? Was it like when you were deployed, or did you discover that passion like beforehand?
No, so I didn't know about art at all until I went to art therapy at that traumatic brain injury clinic. I did art and music therapy, and it kind of like helped my brain reconnect. But then art for me just kind of took off, and it started with a poem, 1,000 Colors, and it's about a crow who turns in, or a bluebird who turns into a crow and doesn't like have a place in the world. And it was how I was feeling about not having my Marine Corps community anymore, from not being able to deploy and knowing that that side of my life is over. You know, shut off at the blink of the switch. I didn't have the opportunity to choose to not deploy anymore. I was medically retired, and so it was a very abrupt, you know, hey, I know you like this stuff and I know you're good at it, but you know, your brain doesn't work anymore. And so that's how that happened. But it's been a big learning curve. I dabble in a lot of it now. I do painting, ceramics, I do fabric stuff. I do a lot of different stuff. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
So your ideas just like hit you?
My ideas just hit me? Yeah. Yes. So I wrote poetry for a while, which was another big healing thing for me. And yeah, they hit me. So one of my friends, Wojo, we deployed together a few times, and then he died in Iraq on a deployment I was not on. And every day of the year, or every year on his death day, it's a really tough time. But I never noticed. I had a hard time putting it together on why it was so tough. Until like at the end of the day, someone I'd see on Instagram or something like, I was like, Wojo died, X number of years ago. And that led me to a poem one day. I was mowing the yard, and I remember getting the call about him dying. And the next day I was a team leader at the time. I went to work and got my team, and I crushed them physically. It was a grueling, like it was like an hour and a half or 2 hour long workout. And it was, we swam a little bit, we ran a little bit, we used a lot of gear and a lot of weights. And at the end of it, I explained to them, why I was tough on them. And they were not happy, but I wrote a poem about that experience. So yeah, they just really hit me. I had one piece that I was working on for a while. It just came to me, and I finished it like 2 weeks ago. And it was great. It was one of my most successful pieces I think I've done, and it's on my Instagram, but it's essentially just me repetitively writing with, like graffiti markers that like drip really hard. It was one of my favorite mediums, and just writing over and over and over again, all my heroes are dead. And it came out very nice, but yeah, it just hit me. Then I sat on it for a few months, maybe like half a year, and then decided one day to pour myself into it, and it was done. Yeah. Is anybody looking at going to school for art? Yeah? Where are you trying to go? RISD? All right. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Well, I would encourage anyone, if you have some type of artistic drive or want or curiosity, go. This is the only life you get. It's short, and you could be robbed of it at any moment in a car accident, anything else. You know what I mean? Like, it's short. If you want to dive into that and explore creativity and a career in art or just art school, go. Don't worry. And I don't know if I'm going to upset any of the instructors in here, but like, don't worry about, future prospects of jobs and life choices and stuff. If you want to go explore that, go explore it. This is the time to do it. So anybody else? Yeah.
Hey, Zach. On behalf of everybody, thanks for being here, first of all. Thanks for everything that you've done. You're a really talented guy, so I love your work, man. It's awesome. You talked a little bit about music being, a big part of your healing, too. What kind of music, man? What's your jam?
So here's an interesting... so we lost so many people in Iraq that we actually had we called it a death band. So we had so many memorials that we had a band, and when we weren't out, they would practice, and then we know they'd have a gig coming up soon. And so that was tough after the deployment, like realizing that fact about it. We should absolutely be training for the next fight and the next mission and the next X, but we should not be preparing for the next funeral, and we should not be, trying to make it the best it can be. It should be one of those things where it doesn't happen. But one of the songs they played all the time was Simple Man, and I couldn't hear that song for